All right, so after you edit for formatting, the next thing to do is to check your content. So make sure you've started with an appropriate hook or attention getter, that it's one of those things. And you can identify, yes, I started with an anecdote, or yes, I started with a quote, or yes, I started with a visual description. Whatever one of the hook options you tested out, make sure you can identify this is what it was. Then double check your thesis, the last sentence in your intro. Make sure it is there, number one, and make sure that it states the main claim of your paper. Remember, you have to answer the prompt in that sentence. So the last sentence of your intro should have something about heroes and heroism and something about Odysseus facing difficulties or challenges or obstacles, however you want to say it. Ideally, it should also include Homer and the Odyssey, but as long as you have these two things to connect it to the prompt, that's the most important part. Then in your body paragraphs, make sure in each body paragraph you have a topic sentence that tells me the hardship and the heroic trait. In each body paragraph, you should have 2 quotes. Each of them should have a citation. One quote needs to be about the hardship, and one needs to be about his heroism, heroic trait. Spell trait right. You need to analyze each quote, and your body paragraph needs a concluding sentence. Each of the 3 body paragraphs should have these items. So reread your body paragraphs. So if I'm going through to look at my samples, which I'm going to warn you right now, if you try to type up this paragraph and submit it as your own, it will show up on Turnitin as plagiarism because I have submitted this sample paper to Turnitin. So do not copy my sample here. That is plagiarism, but I will show it to you. So my topic sentence of this paragraph is, in one of his first challenges, Odysseus demonstrates his intelligence, which is the heroic trait, when he battles the Cyclops Polyphemus. That is my obstacle. I have my introduction to my first quote. The obstacle he had to face when Odysseus went up against the Cyclops was that he did not want his men to get eaten before they could escape. Odysseus watched in fear as the Cyclops, quote, dismembered them and made his meal, gaping and crunching like a mountain lion. Now these are quotes from our old version of the Odyssey because this is last year's. So your quotes will probably be different, hopefully, because this isn't in your version. But I have a quote, and then in our version last year, it was book 9, lines 195 to 196. Then I analyze and explain why that is a hardship. The Cyclops viciously devouring members of the crew serves as a formidable challenge for Odysseus to overcome in this part of his journey. Then I have my transition, but after the Cyclops ate his men, Odysseus showed he was smart to think of a plan. I would probably want to change this from showed. Odysseus demonstrates how he was smart to think of a plan when he stuck, I spelled that wrong, when he stuck the Cyclops in the eye. With the stake. He planned to kill the Cyclops by getting him drunk enough to put him off guard before he knew Odysseus outsmarted him when he was blinded. I must have borrowed this from a different student at some point because it's not a very good paragraph. But he planned to kill the Cyclops by getting him drunk and off guard, then blinding him in the eye, or blinding him with the help of his crew members. Once Odysseus outsmarted the Cyclops, he says, or outsmarts the Cyclops, because we'll keep it in present tense, how do you like the beating that we gave you, you damn cannibal? And my citation. So now I have to prove that that is a heroic trait. Although Odysseus illustrates his confidence and pride with these words, he still explains here that he managed to defeat the Cyclops with only his wit and guile. His intelligence here helped the crew leave the island with fewer casualties than what would have happened if the Cyclops had kept them captive for longer. So I'm explaining, or whoever wrote this is explaining that Odysseus managed to defeat the Cyclops with his brain. So Odysseus, while tricking Polyphemus, proves that he has enough intelligence to heroically go up against the Cyclops. And I'll probably change that to defeat the Cyclops. There we go. So that's my concluding sentence. So this paragraph is slightly better than when I began. So you do that for every paragraph. Make sure you have every single part. Then make sure your conclusion paragraph starts with a restatement of your thesis. So if my thesis was this, throughout all of Homer's The Odyssey, Odysseus illustrates how real heroes prove themselves through times of great difficulty, which again, your thesis should not be that sentence word for word. You need to come up with your own. But I'd rephrase that. And I don't know if this sample paper has a concluding paragraph. It does not. Restated thesis is all I put. So I would rephrase those words, and I would, instead of this sentence, I would say, in Odysseus's challenges, whether on his journey or back home in Ithaca, he manages to prove his heroic traits and grow as a hero. Right? So it's the same general idea. I've got something about challenges and something about him being heroic. Okay. Then make sure you explain why this is important to readers. And if you see the handout that I gave you guys yesterday about concluding paragraph, it should be on Canvas announcements. It gives you some ideas to think about, some questions to answer in terms of what readers can learn. And then finally, in terms of content, read your whole paper start to finish and make sure it makes sense and that you haven't forgotten any words or need any more explanation. Because a lot of times people will stop writing mid-sentence and then forget that they haven't finished that paragraph and just not come back to it. So read your whole paper from start to end. And that should fix your content issues, hopefully. So the next step will be to edit for style, which should be your next video.